Bum, 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 bum. Greetings, my little glibglops. Last Outrider here. Are you ready for another fun-filled 40K factoid? Good. This time, we're going to be talking about, sex in 40K. Yes, I said it. Which is actually, interestingly enough, one of the main reasons I started to enjoy 40K. Way back in the ancient times known as the 1980s, some of you might be aware of a magazine called Dragon. And in Dragon magazine, there was a comic strip called What's Now with Phil Folio and Dixie Null, which was constantly leading up to a cliffhanger of sex in D&D. I had to put this little preface in because one of the things that I first noticed about 40K, two things got me interested in 40K. One was I was reading Dune at the time, and 40K struck me as a science fiction, as Dune, the Emperor in Dune, but I'm not going to go into that now. The other thing that I liked is that it's the only RPG, fantasy, and sci-fi on the market that didn't have hyper-sexualized, caricaturish versions of females, either fantasy or sci-fi, in the game, in the illustrations, or in the storylines. And interestingly enough, even now, 30 years later, if you play any of the mobile games or any really RPGs, you're still going to get this cartoonish caricature of what a female is in gaming. Just look at any of the characters if you play League of Legends or Mobile Legends or anything outside of 40K. They're just absurd. And that impressed me. Now, back to what I was saying in Dragon magazine, with Phil and Dixie, at the time when I first saw 40K, there was an episode that they were talking about with armor, fantasy armor. In Dungeons and Dragons or in most fantasy settings, when you're gonna go and when you compare any sets of armor that a man gets versus any sets of armor that a female gets, the men will get these large tankish sets of armor, and women get essentially a chainmail bikini. And yet both of these sets of armor will provide the characters with equal protection. And they had a whole long running joke about how that's possible. How you can so if we were to carry this over to 40K, you can imagine Terminator armor, the female version of Terminator armor, if 40K followed that paradigm, would be basically a chainmail bikini for a female figure that somehow still manages to confer all of the protection of Terminator armor in bikini form. specifically for women. Now, 40K did make one exception to this, unfortunately, when the Adepta Sororitas came out with another one of my pet peeves, and that is boob armor. The sisters figures came out and they gave them boob armor, and I had fun. I remember I called Nottingham some 20 years ago when I needed to order the figures, the lead figures back then. You couldn't really find them in stores, so I special ordered them because I wanted them all with helmets. So I literally called the UK to order my army, and I got into the conversation of why did the sculptor or everybody decide that Sisters of Battle needed boob armor. Okay, so if I'm going to let's think about the logic behind this. So they're wearing power armor, right? This has got to be some mark of power armor. And you can imagine during the planning session that some Archmagos is in charge of designing a sanctioned form of power armor, and they drew up all the plans, and when they were consecrating it at the end, they looked at it, and this Mechanicus Magos would have looked at it and said, this is missing one thing. It needs boob armor. Or was it the other way around? Did the Mechanicus design the sisters or this mark of power armor and then give it to the ecclesiarchy, and a canoness or prioress was looking at it and said, this looks good, but you know what? I think we should add boobs to it. That's what we need. We need boobs on this armor. It struck me the same as like when they put nipples on the Batman, George Clooney's Batman costume. Where? Because this is a mark of power armor, right? This is a power armor. That means it has to be designed this way. If somebody were to order this mark of power armor, it's not going to be Adepta Sororitas power armor. It's just going to be power armor that has boobs built onto it. Now, I remember in the conversation with the guy, I don't know who I was talking to, and he goes, well, you know, we were discussing it, and he was like, maybe they put it on it, or they put it on it because they wanted people to know that these were female characters. So we had, I guess not wearing the helmets is not good enough, not knowing that they're Sisters of Battle is not good enough, but they wanted to go further and give them secondary sexual characteristics and build boobs into the power armor so that the players, like there's a 40K player out there that would not know that the Sisters of Battle are female, just to make sure that player is informed. They put boobs on the power armor, and I'm like, okay. Fortunately enough, I completely disagreed with that, and I said I don't think that's what it is. So I'm going to tell you my idea of why it has boob armor, and it actually goes back to the origins of the Sisters of Battle, and to the fact that the sisters were basically inspired by a single drawing that was in the compendium, the Red Book, which had this, looks like a nun with a bolter, with the name Sister Sin on her pauldron or something. And the Sisters of Battle Armor is based upon that one picture. And that picture had boobs, but she wasn't wearing power armor. Okay, so I think they were just trying to stay true to making this the Sisters of Battle Armor look like this one picture of Sister Sin. If that was the case, then why didn't they give them the habit too? You know, why just the boobs? Anyways, that's ancient history. I have no idea how many viewers will even know what I'm talking about right now. But if you do, I just took you deep, deep, deep down RPG history with this story. So the key point that I'm saying is that even now in 40K, the lack of this standard sexualization of females is still impressive to me. There's still lots of female characters in there, but none of them are going to be walking around with, you know, heavily endowed, scantily clad females are not something you're ever going to see in Games Workshop games. And that's one of the things that impressed me about it and drew me to the lore in 40K. So we just passed the 11-minute mark, and I'm going to say that is my rendition of Sex in 40K. I hope you like it. Bye.